Hello everybody and welcome to That's Football. Are Arsenal in crisis? A huge loss at the Emirates on Wednesday night against Manchester City has handed the Premier League title race initiative to the holders. The lads from Manchester who wear light blue. Pep Guardiola's Man City are looking like strong favourites for this Premier League title now because they've been there before, because they've got the know-how and because ultimately they've still got to play Arsenal at the Etihad, so that game in hand that Arsenal have got becomes irrelevant if Man City win that game. So Arsenal, from being, I believe a few weeks ago I said it, I stand by it, they had a firm hand on this title, one hand, and now that's slipped away. Are they in a crisis? Some Arsenal fans are handing in the white towel. Some people are saying Arsenal are going to drop like a stone now and their top four hopes could be in jeopardy. I think that's just I actually think that's hilarious. I think it's just the nature of football that happens. I've played the game, I've watched the game, and I think if Gabriel Jesus is playing up front for Arsenal on Wednesday night, they've won that game. The chances Nketiah had, and I'm sorry to say this, he gets three big chances. You'd expect a top Premier League striker to score two of them, in which case it's a draw. I also think Gabriel had a bad game against Haaland. Arsenal could have got a result, and for long periods of that game, especially in the first half, they played well. What Arsenal need to do is, and I can't make any promises, Arsenal fans will know better than me, does this become a crisis? Does it become something that just happens in a season? The fact is, before the Everton loss, Arsenal were relentless. They'd lost one game to Manchester United and they were top of the league, firm favourites to win the title. They've had a bad 3 games. Everton, that can happen, 1-0. Brentford, that can happen, 1-1. They had a dodgy refereeing decision as well. And Man City, ultimately, that was know-how against inexperience. They've taken 1 point from 9. It's a mini crisis. Everybody has one. But you know what? If I can just be completely honest, Arsenal have been brilliant up until those 3 results. 3 bad results in a season, you'd expect to probably have 6. You know, I think normally you'd expect to probably lose 4 games and maybe draw 2 games that you shouldn't have won. You'd expect 6 bad results in a season if you're going to win the title. Arsenal have had 3 or 4. And yet they're still getting pressure from Man City. I said this at the start of the season. Liverpool were falling away and I was like, Man City will win this league because there is nobody who's anywhere other than Liverpool. There's nobody in the Premier League that's capable of posting 90 plus points, which you will have to do to take it off Man City, because that's what they do year in, year out. Man City, they've got the manager, the resources and the squad and the players to go and post 90 points plus every season, and they basically say to everyone else, if you can do that, fair play. And that's what you're asking Arsenal to do. They've not fell off, they're not in a crisis, they're not crumbling, they're not bottling it. They're being asked to do something that Liverpool can't do this year. They're being asked to be the challenge to Man City that I think people forget this. We know Man City can go and win 10 games in a row. We know Man City can go and hit nearly 100 points. And you're asking Arsenal, who've not been in a title race for 20 years, who've not been in Europe, Champions League for 5 years, to go toe-to-toe with them. And then when they drop points over 3 games, people go, oh, they're bottlers. They're not bottlers. They're already exceeding way beyond what anybody thought they could do. What they do from here, though, is how much they let that exterior noise get into their head. Because Aston Villa away tomorrow, we're going to do a watch-along for that, is a huge game for Arsenal. Because they will be, it's natural. It's natural to feel like that they will feel like they've blown it. They will feel that they've lost their chance. But the reality is they haven't. Apart from the Etihad game, why can't Arsenal go and win every game they've got? Starting with Aston Villa. They've got 2 huge games coming up against Aston Villa and Leicester away. Both those games will be difficult. I'd be surprised if Arsenal win them both. But if they go and win both those games, they put themselves right back in amongst it. And they're good enough to do it. And I think it will come down to whether they want to listen to the exterior noise from the rival fans, from the media, from some of their own fans. Will they let that get to them? Bottlers, they've blown it. And if they do, they'll start dropping points. And maybe they will end up 3rd. Maybe Man United will go past them, like Gary Neville predicted a few weeks ago. And I thought that was a ridiculous prediction, by the way. But, I don't think that was obviously going to happen. And I think if it does happen, it will because of what Gary said, that the Arsenal will get infected by this bottler mentality. But what they need to do, and I don't want to be giving advice to Arsenal, but what they need to do is look at it and go, we've had 3 bad results this season. Up until that point, you're halfway through the year and you're having an amazing year. The problem is that the bar is so high that Man City set that you have a couple of bad results and they're right on you because they will go and post 90 points. And I think Arsenal, if Arsenal go plus 80, if Arsenal go over 80 points this season, that's a ridiculously good season. But the bar has been moved up by Arteta. And it's all about whether they can do it or whether they can't do it. And I think it's going to be massively intriguing. The loss of Thomas Partey is huge as well. We had this with United and Casemiro. We simply do not have the squads. Man United, Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool. We just do not have the squads to compete with. And I know Chelsea, I would include Chelsea in that, but they've just gone and spent a load of money. But Chelsea are transition. You can't improve them this year. You can't put them in it this year. Nobody has got the squads to compete with Man City. Now, you can talk about the 100 charges they've got against them. You can talk about, the morality of Man City, whatever. But the reality is they are what they are. They are there. They've been doing it for years. It's not a secret. They are dominant in the English game. And this would be 3 Premier Leagues in a row. There's a reason for that. It's just that their squad depth is ridiculous. And when Man United lose Casemiro, or when Arsenal lose Thomas Partey, it has a massive impact. You can't just bring in an international footballer who's world class to come in and replace him like Man City can. So this will be an issue for Arsenal, especially with these 2 big away games coming. But I don't know which way it's going to go. And it must be really disappointing for Arsenal fans because you've had such a good, exciting season, and for it to start slipping away would be really disappointing. But it's character building now, and I would say if they can go and get a win against Villa tomorrow lunchtime, that would be one of their biggest wins of the season, because that would show real progress and real standards and real fight back ability, if you want a made up word, because that's a crushing defeat on Wednesday night. So much would have gone into that, so much energy, so much stress, so much effort, and to bounce back against Villa, who've had a whole week off, that's going to be really difficult. Villa Park's a difficult place to go. I don't think Arsenal are in a crisis. Ultimately, I think if you offered an Arsenal fan Champions League football at the start of the season, they'd have bit your hand off. The problem is, setting your standards at the start of the season is great, but those standards will change if your players and your manager take you to new levels. And Arsenal are at new levels at the moment. And if they did finish 3rd, it would be disappointing. And but that's not where they're at the moment. Look at that league table; they're still very much in it. But it's going to be a big couple of games for them. Looking at the rest of the Premier League weekend, Man City are going to be relentless now. Let's be absolutely honest. They're going to be relentless. They play Nottingham Forest at Forest on Saturday afternoon. They'll win that. Chelsea at home to Southampton is a game I'm really looking to keep an eye on. I mean, Chelsea, I'm a big fan of Potter. I did the video yesterday. I think they are getting better, but you've got to beat Chelsea. You've got to beat Southampton at home. If they don't beat Southampton tomorrow at home, that's the sort of game where Chelsea fans who are behind Potter and people like me who can see what's happening there and he needs time, you can't defend not beating Southampton. That's a pressure game. They've got to win that game. Brighton against Fulham, probably one of the pick of the games. Brighton and Fulham are having great seasons. What a game that is. Brighton and Fulham at Brighton. Brighton robbed of 3 points at Palace last week. Can they get the 3 points here? Brentford against Crystal Palace. I'd probably say Brentford will win that. That's the status of Brentford at the moment. But Palace, arguably have a better team, but they're doing so well. Everton against Leeds at 3 o'clock tomorrow. I mean, I'm tempted. I'm doing Villa against Arsenal. I'm tempted to do 3 o'clock games as well, because I think I'm going to do 3 o'clocks. The Everton Leeds tomorrow. I mean, look at the league table. Is it third from bottom against 4th from bottom? What a game. What a league the Premier League is, by the way. What a league we have. Everton against Leeds. What a game that's going to be. Wolves against Bournemouth as well. Wolves have done a little bit better lately, but Bournemouth are down there. 2 cracking relegation games going on tomorrow afternoon. And then, of course, Newcastle against Liverpool at 5:30 tomorrow. I mean, if you look at that league table next to me there, that's very much about the race for top 4. If Liverpool could win this game, then they've got a game in hand. They're right up on Newcastle, putting a bit of pressure on them. Of course, if Newcastle can avoid defeat at St James's Park, we should expect them to, that basically gives them such a massive hold on top 4. So that's a huge game as well. Sunday, my team, Man United, play Leicester. I'm a bit worried about that, to be honest with you, because we had a great performance in Barcelona, but it's such a pain going from Thursday night to Sunday afternoon, and Leicester have been brilliant. 8 goals in 2 games in their last 2. I think Man United are going to face a very energetic Leicester side. It'll be tough, but I still fancy United to get a result there. And then Tottenham against West Ham on Sunday afternoon. Who knows? Who knows what happens in that? Tottenham are Tottenham and West Ham are West Ham. I mean, probably go with a 1-1, but So Saturday is looking great. I can't wait for my Talk Sport show, 7:30 on national radio tomorrow night, because there's so many games going on at the bottom and at the top as well. But I think that Arsenal game against Villa is going to be big. And I believe Arsenal can get a result. But, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. I don't think they're in a crisis. I just think they need to get their heads back in the game. Get your comments in below. Smash a like on the video. I'll speak to you on the next one. Don't forget, we've got watch-alongs for you tomorrow.